Welcome. My name is Amir, and today I will be talking about a recent study in which my research supervisors and I investigated the influence of status quo bias on novice user security decision. And we'll share some of the results that we found through the course of this study. With the ever-increasing role of technology, individuals are having to make a lot of more security decisions. Take the recent reports that cybersecurity media has put out. The number of passwords that humans and machines have to use and make in the next year is estimated to be around 300 billion passwords. And as the number of security decisions increase, so does the need for optimizing these security decisions. By security decision optimization, I refer to the degree which the decisions increase users' online security and prevent threats that they may be facing in online platforms. And in recent years, this security decision optimization has garnered a great deal of attention from practitioners and scholars around the world. For example, making the best and strongest password possible, selecting the settings that can secure us against the threats online are all examples of optimizing our security decisions. Even the numbers back this up. Gartner reports that in 2019 alone, there was about 124 billion investment in security expenditure. There was another report from IBM that mentioned that despite these expenditure, there seems to be still a cost attached to each breach of roughly about $3.86 million. So optimizing the security decisions and finding the factors that can help users make the best security decision possible can not only enhance their own security, but can also make these kind of expenditure to garner some sort of a valuable payoff, which right now seems to be missing. The majority of the existing literature have focused on people's security decision-making in organizational context. If you look at a lot of the reports, and if you look at a lot of the literature in the information systems or even the computer sciences research stream, you see that a lot of the papers mainly focus on organizational users and how we can improve the security decisions of those kind of users. However, there seems to be a forgotten group of users that haven't received much attention from us in the past decade or so. We call these users novice non-organizational users. We define them as users with no or minimal security training who don't work under an ongoing supervision of established security guidelines of a firm. Examples of this can be students or customers, basically an average everyday users who don't go through any training at work and don't have anyone supervising their decisions. These types of users have almost been forgotten or been less paid attention to in the last 10 years, yet they still comprise a big portion of the security users out there. Studying the decision-making of these users matter for a number of factors. Number one is that these NNUs receive no assistance throughout the process of the security decision-making. If you look at organizational users, they always have an IT support team that can help them with any decisions or questions they have. With these type of users, with these novice users, they make the decision. They're the judge, they're the jury, and the final decision makers when it comes to their security decisions. What passwords they want to use, how they want to select their security setting. It's completely is up to them. Second of all, NNUs cannot be mandated to learn any security knowledge. Now, this is a big difference that makes studying this group so valuable. When you look at the organizational context, a lot of, especially the big corporation, now they have the mandatory online trainings regarding security and privacy matters. But with the other type of users, with the NNUs, they don't have any mandatory training. If they want to increase their knowledge, they hop on the internet, they ask someone, it's entirely up to them. So for that reason, studying this group of users is also very valuable. And third and last of all, the NNUs for security decision-making are not less consequential than those of supported organizational users. If an NNU makes a bad security decision, a hacker can gets into their account and then attacks, the first degree of contacts they have or other personal information that maybe connect them to their organizations or other family members. So examining what influences the decision-making of these users and how we can optimize their security decisions becomes very important. And it is for the same reasons that we cannot just apply the finding from organizational context to these novice non-organizational contexts, because inherently there is this difference. Now, there are a lot of factors that can be examined. One of the factors that interested us to conduct this study was the presence of default options, which is a common feature among many security decisions. Whether you're looking at setting up your security settings on your browser or you want to install a new app on your phone, you're always faced with this permission, security settings, or privacy settings page in the beginning that can be potentially influential in users' decision. So a question kind of came up for us, and is the way default options presented influence users' decisions? Because let's not forget, with these default options, they're either are on or off. There's no neutral option. So in the beginning, we're providing users with some sort of an anchor for these decisions. So the question that we had is that, does the way default settings are optimized influence the security decision optimization of novice non-organizational users? To answer this question, we conducted a field study. And before getting into the procedure of this study and how we went about conducting this study, I should point out how we went about actually measuring the security decisions of the novice non-organizational users. We designed and developed a mobile app. And in this mobile app, we designed a security settings during the setup phase of the app installation. As you can see in the picture, we included 16 different options in that app, anything from the permission-based options to non-permission-based and more towards the security side. So we can have basically a comprehensive setting page that allows us to measure users' security decision-making. We use that as a security decision measurement. And for security decision optimization, we in fact graded the performance of the users. And for that, we defined an optimal decision for each of the settings. For example, our app was a basically navigation app that helped people live on a certain area in campus and near campus. And for that reason, if a user decided to turn their contacts on, that will be a suboptimal decision. So they will receive a score of 0. Inversely, if they actually went on and turned off the contacts, they would receive a score of 1. So each option, whether eventually turned out being optimal or suboptimal, received a score of 1 and 0, in total of 16, which was the raw performance score that was given to users' security decision optimization. Now, leveraging the app that we designed and leveraging this kind of scoring mechanism, we went ahead and conducted this study. We recruited 95 people, 43% men and 57% women, almost an equal breakdown between app owners, both app type owners, 47 from iOS and 53% from Android. We made the app available in the app stores for the time of this study because we wanted to make this study as authentic as possible and measure the security decisions of the users in a realistic manner. So the way this study was conducted was that we recruited the subjects on the premise that they were participating in an app testing study, where they out to assess the functionality and design of a newly developed app within 3 days. So they had some tasks to do, such as browsing the app, looking to different parts of it and reporting on different aspects of the app and providing feedback. We measured their security decision and the security decision optimization on day 1 when they installed the app. And this allowed us to basically measure and record their decision objectively at the time of the initial setup and without interference or any kind of priming effect that sometimes occur in the security-related studies. Now, on to the results. So the study itself is a bit larger, but since we're talking about the status quo optimization aspect of it, we should mention that we assessed the impact of 21 variables, including security knowledge, on the security decision-making of users. Status quo optimization had the most significant influence on SCO, higher than any other variable, even higher than users' own security knowledge. And if I want to put that in number, the simple procedure of optimizing the default options by 50%, meaning that among the 16 options we had, if we present 8 out of the 16 in the optimal way that we define and we think is the best way for users to decide, that led participants to optimize 3 additional settings, which is it's a huge number when we compare it to the other factors we had, which is almost 3 times of the next influential factor. In addition to this, we also found something else interesting. A good portion of the users accepted the default options regardless of how the options were presented to them. Now, in the study, in the analysis, we grouped the participants based on how they basically saw the default option. So there was one group that saw the default setting as sub-optimized, meaning a lot of the options were not optimized for them, and some of them saw as optimized, meaning they saw most of it as an optimized option. And what we witnessed was that the percentage of the people that accepted default options with no change was exactly the same among the 2 groups, meaning that regardless of whether the options were optimized or not optimized, it didn't matter to them and they accepted the options as is. Now, this is what we usually label as the status quo bias, meaning that consumers and basically NNUs, they cannot distinguish between a good security options and a bad security options. This is something that may not exist for organizational users who go through security training and inherently understand that, let's say, 2-factor authentication is a good practice, is an optimized security setting to be enabled. But NNUs, a portion of them, and here we found at least a fifth of them, they just accept the default options regardless of how it's presented to them, which was a big thing for us because usually novice users, we expected them to understand at least the basic concepts, but here we saw that a portion of them, they just go with what the app is showing to them. Now, showing these 2 pages of results, I want to take 2 implications from it and talk about 2 basically takeaways from it. One is that default options act as a double-edged sword, meaning that on one hand, they can be one of the best tools for designers or firms to push users towards better decisions. As I showed previously in the slides, if you optimize the settings, it's more likely that the users are going to optimize their decisions even more. For example, if 2-factor authentication is turned on by default or login alert from new device is turned on by default, it's more likely that user is going to keep that option on going forward. On the other hand, default options can be a great tool for malicious actors to steal users' data as well. As again, we saw in the previous page, I showed that there was a portion of the users that accept the default options regardless of how it's presented to them. And this is how basically the malicious actors can utilize users' status quo bias and trick them to steal their informations. There are a lot of reports that are coming out, especially in Android apps, that there's a lot of apps that tries to use users' informations. They use techniques like in-app purchases, ads, and the default add the permissions in the beginning to get users' data in a totally legal manner and then sell it to other parties. So we have to be cognizant of the crucial role that default options seems to be playing. Now, one thing that can change in my opinion, and based on the findings of this study, is that the companies and organizations can take a more active roles in presenting the default options to their users, whether it's the customers of the company or students in a university or any other non-organizational users. Because when you look at these websites, when you want to sign up, let's say for Google or any other big website, usually what they do is that they leave it up to users on how they want to make the decisions, which is completely fair. But in the beginning, they don't have any of these options usually turned on. The options usually are turned off, and it's up to users if they want to turn them on or off. But the result here shows that if you actually turn the options that you think are helpful to users in the beginning on, then in turn users will keep those options on going forward and basically make more security decisions as time passes. Another takeaways from this study is that while security knowledge is influential, it's not the only factor in security decision optimizations. In this study, we examined the role of 21 different variables, including security knowledge. And we saw that the security decision optimization has the most influential factor. In recent years, there has been a lot of attempts to try to educate the public that don't go through training in organization in regards to security decision-making. You look at US, the NSA actually has guidelines up about best security practices for keeping your home network secure. Even the government of Canada, through their Get Cyber Safe website, tries to educate the publics on threats, a mechanism to combat threats, and topics related to it. But that seems to be the thing. All these websites and all these educational platforms that are mostly targeted as to the novice, non-organizational users, they mainly aim to increase the objective security knowledge of users. What is a VPN? What is a worm? What is a ransomware? And so on. So they try to teach public on these topics. And while these topics are important and knowing them versus not knowing them can be influential in the way users try to optimize their security decision, they're not the only factor. So one recommendation that I think can come out of this study is that governmental agencies can incorporate learning about factors other than security knowledge in the resources for the NNUs, such as the status quo bias, the role of default options. Because at the end of the day, the way that basically people in charge, governments, companies, firms, and organizations can help novice non-organizational users with their security decision-making is in two ways. One is the direct approach, meaning trying to educate individuals and novice users on these topics in addition to, let's say, the security topics. And the other way is the indirect approach, which we designed the default options in a way that help users make better decisions without actually informing them of what we're doing, which is a form of soft paternalism or nudging techniques that has been used greatly in the past 10 years and has been gaining a lot of momentum as well. So we reached at the end of the presentation. I want to thank you for your time and attention to this study. I hope you found the result interesting. In summary, default options are influential in security decision-making of novice non-organizational users more than any other factors. Because of that, we would recommend that developers and organizations can take advantage of this in nudging their users to make safer decisions if they want to take an indirect approach, and they can include it in educational materials if they want to take a direct approach. And at the end of the day, awareness of these factors can be helpful for NNUs who constantly face the pressure of security breaches similar to their organizational users' counterparts. And by examining these topics and factors other than security decisions, we can take another step into examining the relationship between humans and their security decision-making process and what can make their security decisions optimized. Thank you.